Whoa! Took me by surprise there. Hey everyone, this is Chris. I'm your neighborhood librarian over at the Palo Alto City Library. And if you're near a computer today, if you want to follow along, head over to our website at library.cityofpaloalto.org/Minecraft. There'll be some links for you later on. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. What is threat modeling? I'm going to give you the, Wikipedia definition right now, but the whole point of what we're talking about today is to move this out of a sort of boring-ish dictionary definition into something that, works really well, that makes a lot of sense in the game Minecraft itself. So I don't know if you have had a chance to read what's on the screen already, but basically threat modeling is a process. It's going to be where you figure out what are the threats. And the threat could be a lot of different things, but we're going to talk about mobs specifically. What are the threats? Where are they? How bad are they? We're going to rank them, and then we're going to use that rank to come up with a design that's going to, figure out, okay, how do I fix these problems? What are my vulnerabilities? What's relevant? And what are we going to do about it? So for me, threat modeling really takes place. There's two things that I think about. The first one is called impact. And let me give you an example. The highest impact thing in the game, the most impactful mob, has got to be the creeper, right? Because what's worse than coming back from a day of mining and you find like 20 creepers up in your base? Like, that's going to take out all your stuff. It's a big problem. Spiders, I'd say that's maybe a lower impact thing. Because what's a spider going to do? You see maybe one or two at a time, and not so bad. But, it's those creepers that I'm a little more concerned about. Those are high impact versus low impact mobs. Let me give you a little bit of a visual here. So the way I started my threat modeling process is I said, okay, let's just take these mobs and we're going to put them in a high or a low category. So it looks a little bit like this. And feel free to disagree. I came up with this as my high and my low. Now, let me emphasize one thing. Threat modeling is going to look different for everyone. It's all about how you play and where you play. So, just like in real life, if you use the internet at home versus the internet at an airport or the internet at the library, that's a different threat model just based on where you are. It's all about the context. It's all about the environment where you play. Someone who's always up in the mountains in Minecraft versus down in the mines, those are different scenarios. It might look completely different. You see way more skeletons down underground than above ground. In my experience, anyway. So we talked about the impact. The next thing I think about is the probability. Now, what is probability? That's just how likely or how often do you see these things versus not see them. And it's going to be different depending on where you are. But this is what I came up with. So for me personally, I thought creepers and zombies, probably the most probable thing that I'm going to encounter in the game. Because you know what? I stay up late. It's just a matter of fact, if you're up late, you're going to see some more monsters. So again, it's going to depend on how you play, but you can see how this is a process that we can all use, right? It's not so much about the conclusion, but what are you doing? How are you thinking about it? So I took those two ideas, the impact and the probability. I said, let's rank these monsters so I can figure out, what's my number one, my number two, and my number three problem that I need to fix. And this is what I came up with. Again, I'm an explorer. I like to travel in the game, so it's gonna be different for you if you're mostly, you're a builder. I've met a lot of people, they're builders, they're not explorers. It's gonna depend, right? So this was my threat model. And, I don't want to get too deep into the science here, but there are some reasons why I think this makes the most sense. Some of it has to do with just how the game works. But you know what? There are some other ways we could do this, right? In fact, about a month ago at the workshop at the library, someone said to me, hey, what about HP? Have you looked at an Enderman lately? He's got like 40 HP. That's a lot of HP compared to everyone else. That's like double a skeleton. Now, I know where my pumpkins are, so I'm all set, but Adam had a good point. Adam said, my threat model is based on HP. Maybe Adam does a lot more combat than me. I don't know. But you know what? I went back. To the wiki and I said, well, HP's one thing, but what about hit attack points? Creepers are still kind of up there, right? And we could even go a little bit deeper here. We could say, let's get a ratio of attack points to HP. I still kind of think mine's the best, but I'd be interested to see what you have in mind. So that's what we're actually going to practice in a second here. Now that you've got your threat model in mind, let's actually build something based on that. So head back to the website. You're going to scroll down a little bit and click on that Minecraft design tool. It's going to take you to a page like this. Now I know this looks a little boring at first, but we're going to make it cool. I promise you. We're going to use that grid on the top of the screen there, and you pick the blocks that you want to use towards the bottom. And this is just a really easy, quick way. You don't even need the game to play it. You're just going to come up with your design. And before you do that, let me emphasize one thing, okay? One thing alone. Make sure before you start your design that you have a threat model in your head. For me, it helps to write it down a little bit. My memory is not so good, so I like to get that list going. But make sure you have that threat model in your head. What's the highest probability? What's the highest impact? And what do I rank my different threats based on that? If you play in a multiplayer server versus a single player server, you got to add humans in there too. You think about that? Humans are a lot different than the AI or the algorithms that run the game. Totally different threat model. You see what I mean? So one more thing before we keep going. Look down at the bottom there where it says settings. I like to do my designs based on a one chunk build. That's a 16 by 16 square. But you can make this as big or as small as you want because it's all about how do you play the game. Here's some designs before you get going. So I really like to show this one because it reminds me of a castle. And it brings up a really good point, I think, is you can go back in history. You can look at actual fort designs and castle designs. And you can come up with ideas you never would have thought of before. So this person, I think they got like a sort of drawbridge thing that they were thinking of. A little bit of a moat around there. I thought it was really cool. Quite a few pumpkins, but, we'll get to that later too. So pumpkins are important also. We've got some traps that they had in mind. This is a huge base, and it took a lot of clicks, but you can see where they were thinking. They had some traps in mind. They had some TNT. Lots of doors, which I think is important. Do you have an escape plan? Have you thought of that? The first base that I made that I thought was the best base ever, you know what I forgot? How am I going to get in and out of this thing? Like, is that even a base? Anyway, so here's some other cool stuff. We got some water going on. We got some TNT. I think water's a really nice design or an interesting way to build because that it's going to slow things down. It might give you that extra minute that you need to play in your defense. Another awesome, huge design that someone came up with in class. I hadn't really thought of cactuses before, but it makes a lot of sense because that's going to damage them. Anything that walks near it or walks by it, that's going to hurt. That could help you out too. And here's another cool thing. So I know this takes a lot of clicks and time is short. Maybe you got a base it's symmetrical. Maybe all, the sides are sort of a mirror of each other. So what you could actually do, instead of clicking that whole thing, just do like a quarter of it. it doesn't have to be the full thing. We're just planning this in our mind before we start to build. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Have you noticed the trend here? So the more layers we add to our design, here's another one from the workshop at the library. The more layers we add, the more defenses we have, right? Obsidian, very important, but difficult to mine on your own. And here, okay, one of the last ones. One of my favorites from Eli a couple weeks ago. He had this really cool idea to use snow golems. That's what those pumpkins in the middle represent. I told you to talk about pumpkins again. A snow golem versus an iron golem. If you think about it, maybe some of the best designs out there don't use the most resources, but they use the least or the fewest blocks or resources. It's just realistic to think, right? If you're in a multiplayer server, or if you just, it's the first night and you gotta build something around your bed so you can sleep. What's better, a base that you can't finish or a base that you can finish that actually works? Okay, a real quick story while you're building your design. This is something I talked about at Mindfair last year when I was over at San Mateo. I'm a librarian, so I really like the enchantment table. I always put that right in the middle, surrounded by my books. Because books are great, right? Books are awesome. The more books you have, the better your enchantments are going to be. So I put that in the middle of my base, and I started building some layers. I had some obsidian going. I added some cobblestone. Get some lava going around the edge. We like lava. And I put some, what did I do? I put some fences. I got a moat, a little bit of hay. And I'm wondering, do you see the problem yet? There's a problem in this base. You're right. I made a really silly newbie mistake, which was putting wood next to lava. You can't do that because wood plus lava equals fire equals half my base is gone, half my defenses are gone. It even got a little bit of the hay. Can you believe that? So this is the reason why threat modeling is so important, because if you don't plan ahead, you might make mistakes. You might make security layers that don't even work together. And so the more that we can do this in our head, almost automatically, the better your security is going to be in Minecraft, and the better your security is going to be in real life also, because the same rules apply, all right? Minecraft is a simulation of reality. That's why we're talking about this today. It's not just a game. Okay, I hope I've convinced you. If you've come up with a really cool design, there's something I'd like you to do, which is scroll down the bottom of that design tool, click the export button. That's going to convert that grid up at the top. It's going to convert it to some numbers. And what you can do, you can select those numbers. You can hit a copy paste on your keyboard or your mouse, Control C, Apple C, whichever system you're on. We're going to copy that. Head back over to /Minecraft. Scroll down at the bottom of the page. I've got a place where you can upload your designs. I will look at them and I will feature them on our website. So please, if you'd like to share, if you think you came up with the best base ever, please share on our website. Scroll down to the bottom of /Minecraft. We're going to copy that code. We're going to paste it into this form, and you just hit the submit button. You don't have to use your email. You don't have to use your name, your first name, last name, any of that. I just want to see what you came up with, because there's been some really, really cool stuff that came out of this class. And I hope you share your design with me, because I love Minecraft and I love seeing what people create with it. That's the end of the workshop. I hope you had fun. Again, /Minecraft for all of your Minecraft things. And now that we're at the end of the talk, at the end of the workshop, I want to tell you a little secret about that webpage. /Minecraft, if you click the title at the top of the page, Minecraft at PACL, that's Palo Alto City Library, click that link. It's going to take you to our catalog. It's going to show you all the Minecraft stuff that we got, it's a shortcut that you can use anytime.